When examining the rich history of jazz music, the genre's racial past is inescapable. New Orleans, Louisiana, the birthplace of jazz in the early 1900s, was a melting pot for jazz music, which became a deeply melodic and powerful musical genre, primarily led by talented and innovative African American performers, and attracted a diverse audience. Although the genre has been appropriated by multiple cultures today, the racial divide between those who played and those who listened to jazz remained largely intact for several decades. Similar to blackface minstrel shows, white audiences enjoyed jazz as an impressive showcase of the dark-skinned African other, embracing African American musicians as performers rather than people. Any lyrical discussion of African American history and current black social and economic problems were subjects white audiences were not interested in hearing. Because of systemic racism, early jazz performers, such as Louis Armstrong and Fletcher Henderson, shied away from broad African American history and topical racism and segregation in their lyrics. Instead, they used their instruments as their primary method of conveying emotions through their music. As the 20th century progressed and the rights of African Americans became a topic that increasingly rested on the United States' national conscience, black jazz musicians became more lyrically daring, embracing the dark past African Americans had been subjugated to under white America. Through their lyrics, performers such as Roach and Charles Mingus used history and their own similar experiences to commentate on racial matters of their day. This project serves as a broad examination of how the portrayal of distinctly African American history and social problems have been presented through jazz music by black artists from the early 1900s to the 1960s. From subtle racial lyrics in the music of early masterminds, including Louis Armstrong and Billie Holiday, to the transparent racial messages found within the discographies of Roach and Charles Mingus, the public lyrical presentation of racial issues and injustices became increasingly blatant throughout the 20th century and was advanced in the mid-20th century by the developing civil rights movement. The well-regarded Louis Armstrong was among the first jazz artists to gain immense popularity in the 1920s, and the first to become popular for broad white audiences. Armstrong was well regarded by white America and was often given preferential treatment in wealthy circles that other African American artists were not afforded. Armstrong was criticized by African Americans for playing into the specific black entertainer role white audiences desired he fill, and not challenging conceptions of white dominance in his music. Armstrong's only notable song that discusses a racial topic is his 1929 cover of Black and Blue, although his performance can be interpreted as a form of internalized racism.
I'm right inside, but that don't help my case, 'cause I can't hide what is in my face. I say, how would it end? Ain't got a friend. My only sin is in my skin. What did I do to be so black and blue?
Far from a proud declaration of his blackness, Black and Blue appears almost as an apology for Armstrong's own skin and is a form of self-loathing. Armstrong appears as though he is desperate to be white or normal, rather than desiring black Americans be seen as true equals to white Americans. During the prime of Armstrong's career, strict segregation and Jim Crow laws were still in effect over much of the American South, and deep-seated national racism could be found in American cities, North and South, and Americans would not embrace racial lyrics. This strict national environment grants greater context to Armstrong's minimalist, radical action, although his lack of progressivism can still be viewed as a misuse of the platform his popularity provided. In 1939, jazz singer Billie Holiday recorded the single Strange Fruit. Unlike Armstrong, whose lyrics in Black and Blue were apologetic and did not address any major struggle black Africans suffered, Holiday discusses African American lynching through her song's racially charged lyrics. The act of murdering blacks by lynching became popular during the Reconstruction era in the American South, and while the frequency of these murders fluctuated, lynching remained a consistent threat to African Americans for the first half of the 20th century. In Strange Fruit, which was originally a poem by Abel Meeropol, Holiday paints a haunting image of the aftermath of a lynching.
Southern trees bear strange fruit, blood on the leaves and blood at the root, black bodies swinging in the southern breeze, strange fruit hanging from the poplar trees.
After Strange Fruit, the change in approach black artists took in discussing racial topics through their music was clear. In the early 1930s, Louis Armstrong was crooning to a song that appeared to send a message that he wished he was white. By the late 1930s, Billie Holiday was singing a song about the reality and fears African Americans experienced in everyday life during Reconstruction and in the early 20th century. In the late 1950s and early 1960s, in the midst of the Civil Rights Movement, acclaimed jazz drummer Max Roach added his music to the national conversation. In 1959, jazz drummer Max Roach recorded We Insist, Max Roach's Freedom Now Suite, an entire album dedicated to the history of African Americans in the United States and the demands of the Civil Rights Movement.
Drive a man, he made a life, but the mammy ain't his wife. Chopping cotton, don't be slow. Better finish out your row. Ain't but two things on my mind. Drive a man and quitting time.
The album consists of 5 tracks: Drive a Man, Freedom Day, Triptych, Prayer, Protest, Peace, All Africa, and Tears of Johannesburg. Each song discusses a different aspect of African American history. Drive a Man examines life as a plantation slave, working under the violent and watchful eye of Drive a Man. Freedom Day is about emancipation in the United States, while Triptych, Prayer, Protest, and Peace is a broad musical evaluation of slavery around the world and throughout history. All Africa explores racism and the Civil Rights Movement in Africa. And Tears of Johannesburg concludes the record with a mournful tribute to those who died because of apartheid in the South African Sharpeville massacre. Spurred by the Civil Rights Movement in 1959, jazz legend Charles Mingus recorded Fables of Phobos as a track on his record Mingus Much unlike Armstrong's Black and Blue, or even the work of Max Roach, Fables of Phobos is unabashed in its delivery of racial subject matter. The song is a direct response to a major social issue of Mingus's day, the integration of American schools. Specifically, the song is about the Little Rock Nine and the actions Arkansas Governor Orville Faubus took to deny African American students access to white schools in 1957. In Fables of Phobos, Mingus is direct with his message, a unique approach when compared not only to other racially charged jazz lyrics, but to all jazz lyrics. While minimalistic music from a trumpet, bass, and trap kit is played, Mingus verbally attacks Governor Faubus and his actions, asking questions that his band, particularly drummer Danny Richmond, answers in a call-and-response gang vocal style.
Name me someone who's ridiculous, Danny. Why is he so sick and ridiculous? He won't forget. I said in school. Then he's a fool.
This direct assault and mockery of a white public figure, combined with the song's blatant racial messages, was unheard of for a black artist to record. We Insist and Strange Fruit had discussed clear topics related to race in its songs, but Roach and Holiday never referenced any public figure in their work. While Fables of Phobos, like many other songs in Mingus's discography, acted like a platform for Mingus to belt out his personal modern opinions, there is a greater history in the song's lyrics.
Oh Lord, don't let them shoot us. Oh Lord, don't let them stab us. Oh Lord, don't let them torn tether us. Oh Lord, no more swastikas.
Fables of Phobos also shows the angry desperation of Mingus, afraid and exhausted at the continuous struggles African Americans have had to endure throughout American history. Mingus continued to perform the song, which became popular among his fans until his death in 1979. When examining how racial issues were depicted by black jazz artists in the 20th century, the evolution, advancement, and eventual clarity of the topic is obvious. Previous to Louis Armstrong's breakthrough popularity with a white audience, racial lyrics were only present in more private African American genres, such as blues and spirituals. Lyrical and musical content that, in any way, related to African American history or current problems facing black Americans remained untranslated to the African American genre, which enjoyed a wider, more culturally diverse audience, jazz. Remedying this lack of exposure, Louis Armstrong, Billie Holiday, Max Roach, and Charles Mingus all created racially charged jazz music that pushed the specific social boundaries of their time,